we've come. Generative AI is not just about creating content, it's about transforming how we approach problems and drive innovative solutions. And from automating routine tasks to enhancing decision-making processes to the potential applications are vast. So I just want to know how you see generative AI being applied in the fintech industry here, and are there any firms that stand out in implementing these innovations?
Yeah, so I think and you touched upon some of them. There's a very wide variety of applications for AI and generative AI specifically in different fields. Fintech itself is so broad. Fintech is, these days, fintech is lending tech, it's insure tech, it's reg tech, it's infrastructure tech. But one way to think about this, Divya, would be, I look at it as spheres in which artificial intelligence could be used. So, for example, you could say one sphere could be data analysis, it could be decision support, it could be language translation, information retrieval. I don't think, or I haven't seen production grade use cases of generative AI rolled out in the Indian market specifically. Because if you look at the AI maturity scale, I think 90% of the companies or financial institutions and fintechs in India are at probably stage one, which is where this is creating a level of awareness within the organization, evaluating what businesses and or what functions could benefit from the use of artificial intelligence. We have about 8 or 9% of the firms that are in stage two, which is probably doing small pilots within their groups, evaluating the responses and looking at what real ROIs could come out of a particular use case. And I think maybe then there's about one or two that have, set about operationalizing, the pilots that probably were successful into daily routines, which means integrating, into source systems, hiring and managing a team of data scientists, including engineers, creating a data pipeline, different versions of data, so on and so forth. But there is a great example of a fintech or of a global fintech that is actually using Gen AI across all of those spheres that I spoke about, and it's the global BNPL platform called Klarna. I think most people are familiar with Klarna and how they've heralded BNPL across the world. And earlier, just this February, Klarna announced that they were outsourcing their entire customer support to an AI assistant. And this was powered by ChatGPT and OpenAI. And they integrated ChatGPT into their own systems and created a custom LLM solution. And this LLM solution, they trained it with all of their previous customer scenarios and their service requests. Right? So they fed the LLM with all of their rules, their refund, rules, logistics, service, customer conversations, and recordings of those conversations. And the results of that have been simply fantastic. And this is what they achieved, and I think it's really staggering. They, in the first month of the launch of their AI assistant, successfully executed 2.3 million conversations with their customers. And these are service requests, right? And service conversations. The AI assistant was available in 23 countries, could speak in 35 languages. It was available 24/7. And the net impact was, it was servicing about 66% of their total customer queries. And that led to a savings of close to about $40 million a month. So, I mean, as an example, I think it's a fantastic example of a large global fintech, putting out this use case of generative AI being used, where they're able to perform the work of 700 agents and saving about $40 million. So, I mean, it's just staggering as a use case. I think back in India, SBI is doing something similar. They've rolled out a successful pilot for internally looking at information retrieval for branch managers. And they've created this large knowledge base where they're using co-pilots to be able to bring back information to branch managers to help customer service requests, or to even provide a knowledge base for how to do certain branch operations, when can they move funds from a certain account to the other. But that's still at a pilot stage, and I believe is getting rolled out over the next few months. We have several other examples. So InsurTech. So if we want to take InsurTech, I think insurance is a very sales and marketing heavy product, and one of the large insurance agents in India is actually training, making sure of having generative AI personas or voice bots, or actually digital humans, so to speak, to which a sales agent can present and converse. And they've trained these personas to be different kind of people. So an aggressive customer, a household person, an older person, a person who's really busy, and these sales agents have to pitch and present the product, the insurance product, to this particular persona. And the AI bot actually evaluates you and then is able to give you feedback, which, in a normal setting, it's hard for people to give feedback. Sometimes we're awkward about it. We may hesitate to provide feedback in a certain way because we're worried people may take it the wrong way. But when you do this with an AI persona, you're eliminating a lot of that, right? It's very objective. People are less likely to feel bad. And the AI will continue to monitor how you're getting trained over time. And then once you reach a certain score, they think the sales agent is ready to actually pitch this to the actual customer. So I think that's a beautiful use case in InsurTech that I know one of the big insurance companies in the country is doing. If you look at lending tech, underwriting, scores, because there's a lot of data now available. You can go through a lot of old portfolio data, evaluate the decisions that you are making when you're underwriting a customer, especially in real time these days. You can bring in operational efficiencies using, auto generation of credit appraisal memos, which is pretty much content generation, and putting all of that information into a little package that someone can evaluate and help make a decision or support a decision that was actually made. Regulatory compliance, I think, anomaly detection and many of those common use cases. But I think an interesting use case is also in the suppression of false positives and the narration behind why a false positive was being separated. Earlier, a lot of this was black box and regulators were hesitant, because of the lack of understanding. But now I think with conversational capabilities being added on top of all of this, I think, we are in a much better position to explain why we are either calling something suspicious or suppressing something as a false positive. So I think that's a big use case that I've seen that is coming around. And lastly, to touch upon a few others, I mean, security, there's an interesting one, McAfee, the company that looks at viruses and protects us from viruses, launched a project called Mockingbird. And this project is to identify deep fakes on the phone. So if someone called me, or if I called you and I called you from an unknown number and it sounded like me, they are able to detect this with 90% accuracy. Because there's a lot of fraud and scams going on where I'll call from a different number and say, or AI voice sounding like me will call and say, hey, I'm stuck here. I don't have money. Can you UPI me whatever, 100 rupees or 500 rupees for a gas payment or something like that, right? So, so they are able to detect this with 90% accuracy if you install, obviously, that on your phone. So yeah, I mean, co-pilots for digital journeys. I think the use cases are tremendous. And in terms of who's doing stuff, I think the larger firms, they are going to be able to roll out these things much faster because they have a lot of data with them. They also, probably have the budgets to also do this. So you're going to see a lot of the bigger financial institutions experiment and operationalize these out first. And there's some really interesting new models coming up in this. So, and I was just reading the other day, Reddit, which is a user community platform. I think it's fairly popular. Everyone knows about it. Just signed a licensing deal to sell their data for $60 million a year for large language models to learn from the content they have across all their different communities. So Yeah, so I think different business models, different monetization models, wide variety of use cases.